It's a rainy day in Seoul when Park Dongwon, his wife Young Yi and their son Suchin arrive at the new building they'll be living in. The problem is, the movers can't take their things inside because there's a car blocking the entrance and the owner won't come out to move it. After endless phone calls, the car owner, a man called Young Man-soo, finally comes out and moves the car, ignoring Dongwon scolding over his bad parking and claiming he doesn't need to apologize. In fact, he thinks Dongwon should be apologizing to him for having woken him up on a Sunday morning. Now the car has been moved, Dongwon's things can finally be taken inside. While he waits for the movers to finish the job, he gets to meet some of the neighbors, like Miss Oh, an elderly woman, and a single mom that works all day and reminds her son Lee Sung-hoon not to talk to strangers. Once the moving is done, the family wastes no time in enjoying their new apartment, feeling proud of having bought a residence of their own. The following morning, Suchin shows his parents that his marbles roll on the floor, always in the same direction, which indicates the floor may be slanted or the entire building is tilted. Before going to work, Dongwon decides to stop by a gym, considering getting a membership, but he changes his mind when he sees Man-soo as the coach. There's no way he'll train with such a rude guy, so he decides to leave after asking him about their building possibly being tilted, but Man-soo hasn't noticed anything. When he gets to the office, he searches for information about tilted buildings and the area his home is at on the internet. His coworkers congratulate him for having bought his own home and ask him about the location. But when he mentions the name of the neighborhood, the others mention there's an industrial complex in that area and a car waste plan, but Dongwon promises those are long gone and the town is eco-friendly now. After asking them to come over sometime to see how nice the apartment is, Dongwon goes back to watching videos of tilted floors, getting worried about his place. When he returns home, he continues to test the apartment with marbles and check the window frame doesn't get stuck. The next day, when the family goes to get their picture taken, Dongwon gets in a bad mood when he comes across Man-soo again. He helps at his sister's gym sometimes, but photography is his real job. Afterward, they go to a fancy restaurant to have a nice dinner, and since Dongwon drinks wine, he shouldn't be driving, so they call for a cab. He gets even more frustrated when he discovers his drive is, once again, Man-soo, who drives him crazy by ignoring the traffic lights. The following day, when Dongwon's co-workers try to buy him a gift for the new house, Dongwon asks them for the money so he can choose what to get instead, and he ends up buying an expensive rocking chair that he won't even share with his son. That night, a heavy downpour starts affecting the foundation under the building, and cracks begin appearing on the streets. It also causes the building's glass door to crack. When Man-soo comes out in the morning, he sees the crack and touches it, making the door completely shatter. The neighbors see him standing next to it, so they blame him for it and request him to fix it. Meanwhile, Dongwon sees the cracks on the floor and calls the municipal council to ask them to do something about it, but they tell him all the residents must agree on the repairs before requesting them. Dongwon asks all his neighbors to get together to discuss the problem, but they end up arguing over small annoyances and ignoring anything important he has to say about the building. Afterward, while having dinner with his son Young Sung-tae, Man-soo tells him to smoke on the roof instead of inside the apartment to avoid complaints from the neighbors, but Sung-tae denies smoking at all. The following day, after work hours are over, Dongwon is having a small housewarming party with 4 of his co-workers, Kim Sung-yeon, Hong Yoon-yo, manager Young and On Hyo-young. When they arrive at the building, they find Man-soo covering the broken door hole with plastic wrap, and he finally expresses concern for the state of the apartments when he sees the cracks on the ground. For now though, Dongwon ignores him and takes his co-workers to his home, where they have fun together while eating, drinking, and discussing the real estate market. While Sung-yeon uses the bathroom and discovers the apartment is having water issues as well, Dongwon realizes manager Young isn't drinking because he has to drive, so he calls Man-soo over for him to be their driver and allow Young to drink too. Hyo-young isn't very amused by this, because she wants to leave already, and when Dongwon catches her whispering to Young, he realizes they're together. Hyo-young denies it, but manager Young finally confesses it's true, they love each other. This breaks Sung-yeon's heart because he had a crush on her, and causes Hyo-young to leave in a very upset mood, so Young follows her out. Man-soo tells Sung-yeon and Yoon-yo he will take them home, but Dongwon freaks out when he hears how much he'll charge them, so he invites them to sleep over. The next morning, Young-hee goes out for groceries with Suchin and realizes she's forgotten her trolley. Since her husband won't answer the phone, she allows her son to go back to grab it. Meanwhile, Sung-yeon wakes up and rushes out of the building because he has an important appointment today. It isn't until he's already in a cab that he realizes he's forgotten a bag, so he makes the driver take him back. After taking his bag from under a sleeping Yoon-yo, Sung-yeon returns to the cab, only to find the driver talking on the phone some steps away from the car. In the meantime, Man-soo is going around knocking on every door to ask the neighbors if they have water, but since nobody answers him, he assumes everyone is gone. This isn't entirely true, Sun-hoon is home, but he's following his mom's rules and not talking to strangers, and Miss Oh has come back after Man-soo had already passed by their apartment. After coming across Suchin and asking him about the water situation in his place, Man-soo goes to the roof to check on the water tank, causing Sung-tae to hide because he had been there smoking. There's a man on the roof of the neighbor building who is watering his plants, so it seems the problem is exclusive to their home. As Suchin makes it to the parking lot, the ground starts to shake, revealing a sinkhole under the building that starts swallowing it whole, only stopping when the hole becomes too narrow to keep falling. Sung Yoon's cab has also fallen into the hole, and after he sees another car falling and crashing, he tries to open the door to escape, but the ground starts shaking again, so the cab slides down until it lands on the building's roof, almost hitting Man-soo. As the building shakes some more because of this mini earthquake and Sung Yim keeps on pressing the gas pedal, the car slides off again and lands on Dongwon's floor, who helps him get out of the car through the door window. Then the two of them go to the bedroom and move some furniture to help Yoon-yo, who has been trapped all this time, when they're suddenly startled by Man-soo landing on their floor as well after the railing he tried to hold on to broke. Because Dongwon is worried about his family, Man-soo tells him he saw Suchin taking the elevator, so he should have gotten out just fine, but he is worried about his own son, so the whole group goes to Man-soo's apartment to find him. They can't see him anywhere, but when Man-soo notices there's a pair of shoes missing, he takes it as a sign that Sung-tae is safe, because it means he was out of the building when the accident happened. Afterward, they go to the roof so Sung Yoon and Yoon-yo can use their cell phones to call for help, but there's no signal down there, and yelling for help is useless as well because nobody on the streets can hear them. One voice does answer them though, it's Sung-tae, who has been stuck behind a door covered by debris, so the group moves it all to the side to let him out. Then Sung-tae reveals he watches lots of survival shows on YouTube, so he tells them what to do. They should collect supplies to survive and try to find a way to send a signal out so they know they are alive. Meanwhile, a group of rescuers is already working on the area, but the situation isn't promising. First, there are various explosions around the hole. When these finally stop, they try to send some men to climb down the sinkhole, but the constant shaking of the ground puts them in danger and they must be dragged back up. The area is becoming too dangerous for civilians to stay around, so all the residents are evacuated on a bus, including Young Yi and Sung Hoon's mother. Various newscasts begin to cover the disaster as well. Back in the building, Dongwon apologizes to his co-workers for having made them stay over and is sad to find his chair has broken during the earthquake. When night falls and it starts raining, they make a fire to stay warm while eating, and Dongwon accepts with a broken heart to see his chair used to feed the flames. In the morning, it isn't raining anymore, so the rescuers send a drone down the hole, which quickly loses signal and falls on the roof of the building. The survivors are still happy to see it, so they pick it up and start talking to it, hoping it will record them. However, at that moment, a part of the building wall begins to crumble and the roof gets tilted badly. Everyone manages to hold on to something except Sung Yoon, who is about to slide off, so Yoon-yo decides to take a risk and climb, dodging a rolling rock on the way, and grab some wire that she then throws at Sung-yeon. With the help of Man-soo and Dongwon, they use all their strength to pull the wire and bring Sung-yeon back onto the roof, and when his eyes meet Yoon-yo's, they have a moment where they feel as if they're seeing each other for the first time again. Suddenly, the wire accidentally gets loosed, and while the rest of the group manages to hold on to each other, Man-soo falls into a pool of muddy water. It's too thick for him to swim out of it and soon he starts drowning, and the same happens to Sung-tae when he jumps in after him to try to rescue him. Luckily, Dongwon reacts quickly and gets an idea. He runs to one of his bedrooms and breaks the window, allowing all the mud to get inside and bring father and son with it. While the group is busy helping those two out, the drone finally activates again and flies out of the hole, managing to deliver the news of survivors to the rescuers. Young Yi is happy to see her husband is fine, but she's still worried about her son, and so is Sung Hoon's mother. The rescuers remember Young Yi said Suchin had her phone in his hands when he entered the building, so they track it and find out the boy is somewhere in the building. As TV newscasts inform of the newly found survivors, the rescuers try to convince the residents from the neighbor building to let them blow up the concrete under their apartments as well to avoid a collapse, because the foundation is so bad. Their homes could follow the same destiny as the first building any time now, and it's better to move the gravity center away from the sinkhole. The residents don't like the idea of blowing up their homes, not understanding they will lose it anyway, and this way at least they could save parts of it. So the man from the roof speaks up and tells them how terrifying it was to see Man-soo fall away, and the right thing to do is help. Now with the residents' approval, the rescuers begin working on bringing the neighbor building down before another storm begins. Back in the apartments, Man-soo thanks Dongwon for his help and tells him not to worry. He knows there isn't anyone else left in the building because they didn't answer when he went around knocking the previous day. Meanwhile, Sung-yeon tries to comfort Yoon-yo, who is thinking about her parents and how they don't know she's still alive. To pass the time, they take a selfie together, and Sung-yeon is surprised to see how closer Yoon-yo comes to him. At that moment, the group receives a very pleasant surprise. The rescuers have used small parachutes to send down some supply packages that include flashlights, food, oxygen, water, batteries, towels, and even a satellite phone that does have signal. Sung-yeon quickly snatches it and calls their company to ask them to add Yoon-yo's to the list of the company's gifts, then passes it to Dongwon so he can call his wife. But suddenly the phone starts ringing. It's the rescuers checking on them, and Young Yi jumps in the middle of the conversation to tell her husband to look for Suchin, who he thought had left the building but unknown to them is inside one of the cars in the parking lot. The group immediately jumps into action and ties some rope around Dongwon to lower him into the elevator. At the same time that he enters the elevator through the roof hatch and the rescuers start lowering a crane into the hole, their activities find complications when the upper half of the neighbor building finally breaks and falls into the hole, completely blocking access to the survivors. The rescuers take the crane back, unable to use it now, and Dongwon manages to push open the elevator door and reach the parking lot, but all the shaking causes the group to lose their hold on the rope. In the parking lot, which is already starting to flood because it's raining again, Suchin is crying for his dad inside the car when suddenly he sees Sunhoon come down a huge pipe. He gets out of the car to follow him right before some more debris falls, blocking the pipe and keeping him inside. Debris has also fallen on Dongwon's leg, making it bleed, but he pushes the rocks off and gets up anyway, too worried about his son to stop to think about pain. He starts calling his son's name as he searches for him, and luckily, Suchin hears him and calls him back, allowing Dongwon to find him and move all the debris away to rescue him. After they reunite with a hug, they notice something on the many holes on the ceiling. It's Miss Oh, who tells them Sunhoon isn't doing well. In fact, he's dead. Seeing as the water is quickly reaching her floor too, Dongwon wants to escape as soon as possible, but Miss Oh tells him to go without her. Before he leaves with his son, however, she cuts some of Sunhoon's hair and wraps it so that Dongwon can give it to his mother whenever they finally get rescued. With Suchin tied to his back, Dongwon climbs up the pipe, which takes him to the outside wall of the building. As he carefully walks around the edge, he calls out for his friends, who come to his rescue as soon as they hear him. After pulling in both of them through one of the many holes on the floor, everyone goes back to the roof, where they discover the hole has been blocked and the water is already covering the whole building. It's only a matter of time before it takes them with it. Resorting to desperate measures, they start picking up bottles and other sorts of things that can float to make some sort of raft, but it's not needed because Mansu finds their salvation, the water tank that has fallen from the neighbor building, which they nicknamed Yellow Submarine because of its color. Everyone climbs inside except Mansu, who decides to stay behind and sacrifice himself to close the lid. Water raises, the building falls on top of the tank and pushes it down, but it quickly slips away and starts going up only to get tangled in some wires. Yun-Yo notices this and asks the group to shake the tank with her. Their pushing and jumping manage to free the tank, which quickly begins going up again, but this time, the complications come in the form of a steel beam piercing through its wall, letting water in. As they start to push the beam from inside, Mansu suddenly shows up, using the oxygen that the rescuers had sent, and he pushes the tank from the outside, helping them get unstuck. Sun-Yun puts his arm through the hole the beam left to stop water from flooding the tank, and Mansu tries to grab his hand to go with them, but he can't swim fast enough. As he begins to lose all hope, however, his foot gets tangled with the wires from the tank, and Mansu's dragged up through the water with the rest of the team. When the tank hits the surface, the group discovers there is a second hole that is quickly putting them in danger, but luckily for them, Mansu manages to climb on top of the tank and open the lid. It's at that moment that the rescuers see them on the cameras and rush to bring the crane out again, using it to swiftly take the tank out of the hole. After a very emotional reunion with his wife, Dongwon hands Sunhoon's mother the package with his hair, just like he promised. Many months later, Mansu, Dongwon and Young-Yi visit Sung-Yoon and Yun-Yo, who are now a couple living together in a trailer. Tonight they're staying near the river, but in the future they'll travel around, taking advantage of having a home that can move with them. While sharing some food and drinks, the group suddenly gets scared when they hear some explosions, but it's just fireworks, which they have a lovely view of here in the countryside. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.